Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. As many of you know, last week the report from the government on UFOs was finally released, the unclassified version. Basically, and it was junk, just like we talked about here. I knew it was going to be nothing, and it is nothing. It tells us nothing. It's pretty much, it talks about some of the objects some people have seen, but again, this is not what we're seeing here. This is just a big facade, of that represents nothing, basically. I mean, this is just nonsense. It's all nonsense. It's all the government is still gaslighting the country. There's been no major revelations from the Pentagon with regard to UAP, as expected. And the mainstream media, for the most part, just plays along with the Pentagon, takes all of its cues from the Pentagon, and we just move forward in life. Now, a lot of us, we already knew that this report was going to have 366 new sightings listed in it. We already knew about this months ago, before the report came out, because some anonymous Pentagon sources contacted the New York Times and told them all about it. But anyway, here's an article about this new report that came out. This was published on January 13th by NPR, and it says the Pentagon got hundreds of new reports of UFOs in 2022, a government report says. The Pentagon's new Office for Investigating Potential UFO Sightings received hundreds of new reports in 2022, and while it can't explain more than half of those events, a sizable chunk remains a mystery. Within the new batch of sightings, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence say they're focusing on some 171 cases, including some in which objects appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence on Thursday released an unclassified version of the government's new report on UFOs. The annual report stems from a law that also requires the ODNI to send Congress a classified version of the report each year. And then it talks about how the objects, seeing the reports of these objects has risen sharply. Since it was formed last summer, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, has received 366 reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, essentially the military's term for a UFO. The total reflects 247 new UAP reports and another 119 that occurred before March 2021, but hadn't been included in an earlier preliminary report. The new numbers indicate a steep rise in UAP sightings. The preliminary report released in June 2021 listed just 144 reports covering a 17-year period. With the subsequent additions, the ARROW had 510 UAP reports in its files at the end of August 2022. Officials say they believe the rise in UAP reports is due to the government's efforts to destigmatize the topic of UAP and instead recognize the potential risks the phenomenon poses, both as an aviation hazard and potential adversarial activity, such as foreign surveillance efforts. Now let's just stop there for a second. As you can see, I'm pretty deep into this article already, and there's no mention of alien invaders whatsoever. Because, again, this is just a facade that we're being handed here by the government. The government's been lying for 75 years plus now. And, again, we're playing this little game here where we have this new UFO office that's supposed to report to the Congress and provide reports, classified, unclassified, classified reports to the Congress, unclassified reports to the populace, right? But we don't get we're still not getting the full truth, because there is, again, like I've talked about numerous times, and as many people out there realize, there is in fact a secret control group that's been studying this phenomenon for 75 plus years now, okay? But there's no talk about that. Again, we're playing this little game here with the Congress and the Pentagon, saying, yeah, we're looking into it. We have answers for over half of them here, but yeah, we're still looking into it. Nothing to see here, basically. Let's continue here. It says, many of the aerial objects were found to be balloons. Well, of course they're going to talk about balloons. Of course they're going to talk about balloons. They've been talking about balloons since Roswell. What are you talking about? We've been talking about, the Pentagon has been telling us they're balloons since Roswell. All right, continuing here. Out of the 366 reports, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office's initial analysis found that 195 objects had shown unremarkable characteristics, saying they were the linked They were saying they were linked to common activities. The bulk of those reports, 163, were attributed to balloons or balloon-like entities. Why are we even hearing about this then? Who cares about balloons? I don't care. Nobody cares about the balloons. See, again, this is so maddening to know that you're being lied to, treated like a child all these years. Well, most of them are balloons. No. I've seen one of these craft up close and personal, and I've seen one of the beings, and tens of thousands of other people have experienced these things too. Again, this is just a game we're playing with the public. Treat them like a bunch of morons. People should be angry about this. Anyway, continuing. Another 26 were found to be various types of drones. The report notes an increase in civilian drone use. Of course there's going to be frickin' drones flying around. And 6 reports were attributed to clutter, a category that includes plastic bags, weather phenomena, and birds. Okay, plastic bags, we all know these things fly. Why are we hearing about this in this report? I mean, why not? Shouldn't you be embarrassed to even consider that these things were UFOs? I mean, why even conclude them? Let's only focus on the ones you don't know about. Okay, and here's the best part. Okay, then of course, NPR, they have to treat the aliens like it's some kind of a funny joke or something. Alien update so far, no aliens. The report does not include the word alien, but weeks before the report was released, journalists asked 2 senior officials whether their work had turned up any anomalies that might signify beings visiting Earth from outer space. At this time, of course, they're going to use a quote from Ronald Moultrie. Of course, they're going to use that stupid quote from Ronald Moultrie, right? At this time, the answer is no, we have nothing, said Ronald Moultrie, the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. He later added, we have not seen anything that would lead us to believe that any of the objects that we have seen are of alien origin, if you will. Now, again, I said this before. I believe Ronald Moultrie is lying through his teeth. I believe the man's a liar, right? He's lying. He knows that there's something going on. He knows that there's an alien presence on this world. He has to know. Somebody in his position has to know that there is recovered alien craft that's being studied and looked at, and recovered alien bodies that we've been studying this privately for over 75 years now. He knows this. Anyway, continuing, the Arrow's director, Sean Kirkpatrick, stated, we are structuring our analysis to be very thorough and rigorous. We will go through it all, and as a physicist, I have to adhere to the scientific method, and I will follow that data and science wherever it goes. But let me just stop there for a second, Mr. Kirkpatrick. What if they don't show you anything? Because that's what I think is happening. I don't think they're going to show Sean Kirkpatrick anything, or at least there's an effort to prevent him from seeing the real stuff. The real stuff that other scientists have been privy to over the decades. Okay, continuing. It says here, this isn't just about UFOs. The Arrow doesn't only study objects in the air. The military's definition of a UAP was recently expanded to include objects in the air and sea, as well as transmedium objects. Arrow defines that last category as objects or devices that are observed in transition between space and the atmosphere, or between the atmosphere and bodies of water that are not immediately identifiable. In recent years, one of the most compelling accounts of a UAP encounter came from retired U.S. Navy fighter pilot Alex Dietrich, who has described seeing a highly unusual object off the coast of Southern California in 2004 after a colleague spotted something roiling water below us. It was this sort of roundish oblong object, and it didn't have any apparent flight controls, Dietrich said. It seemed to be bouncing around and changing course very quickly and in a way that we would not have been able to maneuver our aircraft or certainly to keep up. Now, let me just stop there for a second. That's obviously not something of this world. We don't have that kind of technology. And let me just point this out too. The United States of America is the most technologically advanced country in this world, right, on this world. So there's nobody else that has this kind of stuff back in 2004. If they did, right, if it was China or Russia, they would have taken over a long time ago. All right. So let's not be stupid here. All right. Then it says here, through the Arrow's work, the U.S. is particularly keen to learn whether the unexplained phenomena might signal a foreign adversary's attempt to collect data. Let's stop here for a minute. They know that a lot of this stuff, the stuff that goes beyond the known physics kind of stuff. They know, right? They know. They're just kidding you. They're pulling your leg. They're just fooling the whole world. Right? It's a dumb game that they're playing, and the dumb media just plays along with it. The Pentagon said this. Okay, the next story. Marjorie Taylor Greene farted in an elevator, and the whole 9 people were in there, and it stunk terrible. This is what we're living through. All right. In a passage that might tantalize or simply annoy UFO enthusiasts, the new report states additional information is provided in the classified version of the report. Of course it's in the classified version of the report. But you know what? I think some of that information is going to start leaking out. I would hope so anyway. But let me just point out something else here. Stephen Greenstreet, the New York Post writer who used to seem like he was interested in the UFO subject, but for recent years has become some kind of a big debunker who just makes fun of it all the time. I have to talk to I want to put out a tweet here that he wrote. This was a tweet that was posted on Twitter on January 15th. It says here, CBS News reports that the UFOs that swarmed the U.S. Navy in 2019 were actually drones, probably China. Regarding crashed UFO debris, Representative Carson states it has not raised any notable alarm. Here's what he's saying, CBS, in other words, no alien spacecraft. So the CBS, I guess, Stephen Greenstreet, all these people just accept it as gospel, whatever the Pentagon tells them. It must be true then.